good.
Good evening.
33
and welcome to the September 19th, 2016 City Council meeting. It, for me at least, is a great day because I am home today after 6 to 8 weeks. So before I even bang the gavel, thank you to everybody. Everybody at the city, every city councilor who picked up a lot of slack, and I know you did, city staff who just made it seem like such an easy transition, a little scary when you're the mayor, when you can do it so easily, but just heartfelt thank you. I feel so blessed to be back. So thank you to everybody. Well, that just even made it more special, thank you. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. And we have a special guest tonight to say the Pledge of Allegiance with us. So would everybody please join us and join Jalen Gahagans.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Jalen, if you would just stand there for a minute. Thank you for being here tonight. And where did you go to school today?
Richmond Elementary.
Is that where you go every day?
Yes.
Yes, okay, okay. She's very mature when you talk to her. You could think that she was not at Richmond, maybe a few steps up, right? So who's your teacher at Richmond?
Mrs. Liebenow.
Mrs. Dee Dee Liebenow. I know her. We know you, Mrs. Liebenow. My son had Mrs. Liebenow. So, and what's your favorite thing to do at school?
Math, probably.
Math. We love students who love math. Okay, what do you do after school? You told me you did something pretty fun after school.
Volleyball.
Volleyball, that's right. Do you have a favorite position in volleyball?
Not really, no.
Not really, you just like to get the ball to go over the net. You one of the Olympians. Did you watch the Olympic volleyball?
No.
Okay, recommended watching sometime. Counselors, do you have any questions for Jalen?
Well, you know, I'm always looking at frames, and I love your eyeglass frames. They're really quite attractive.
Yes, they are. Okay, so I'm going to come down there and one more question for you. Who brought you here tonight?
My mom.
Your mom, and your mom's name is?
Rachel.
Rachel, and what's your dad's name? He's here too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah? You have to point at him. There you go. Okay. Hi, Mom and Dad. And where do Mom and Dad work? Who works for the city of Stillwater?
My mom.
Your mom. Okay. And we love that. Okay, now I'm going to come down there. And your grandparents are in the audience, and your little brother too, right? Point to them as well while I'm walking down there. Okay, thank you to Jalen, and I'm going to stand down here and do the proclamations. And so with the Adult Day Health Care. Hello, how are you? Thank you for being here tonight. Whereas adult day health care centers in the state of Oklahoma are providing professional and compassionate services in the community as an alternative to institutional living for older adults with health issues. And whereas, through this service, adult day centers enable adults with health issues that limit their independence to receive care and services in a community setting. And whereas, adult day care centers provide a coordinated program of services including recreation, medical supervision, social activities, person-centered care, and caregiver support. And whereas, Stillwater has been served for 33 years by a nonprofit adult day health center called the Life Center, located in the First Christian Church of Stillwater, that provides daily individualized programs which offer participants the opportunity for enriching educational, therapeutic, and social experiences in the community, thus assisting them to stay in their own home. And whereas, the Life Center also provides respite, assistance, counseling, and educational support available to all caregivers in Payne County. And whereas, the Leading Age of Oklahoma and the National Adult Day Services Association have designated September 18th through 24th, 2016 as National Adult Day Health Care Week. Now, therefore, I, Gina J. Noble, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the week of September 18th through the 24th as Adult Day Health Care Week. Thank you.
I would just like to thank you, Mayor Noble, and the City Council, and all of the support that we've had from the Stillwater community and all the surrounding areas. In the 33 years that we've been operating, we've served over 3,400 caregivers and 1,850 individuals with health issues. And I would like to invite just an open invitation to everyone to our open house, which will be this Wednesday from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. It's a come and go event, so we'd love to see you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next up, it's Constitution Week. Who's here for Constitution Week? Hi. Okay, whereas September 17th, 2016 marks the 229th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is appropriate to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation, and whereas it is appropriate to officially recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas 36 U.S.C. and 106 and 36 U.S.C. and 108 guarantee the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Gina J. Noble, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim the period of September 17th through September 23rd as Constitution Week in the City of Stillwater. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say a few words.
Thank you for this proclamation. First of all, I would like to say that Daughters of the American Revolution, although it is a lineage organization, is foremost a service organization. And there are three tenets that we try to exemplify, and that is patriotism, education, and preservation. And we feel it's so important that all citizens are aware of Constitution Week and how important this document is in our everyday lives, because without the Constitution, we would not have the freedom that we have. So again, on behalf of DAR, we thank you for this opportunity. And I'd like to recognize my DAR constituency in the back, if they'd stand.
No one's ever said no, but.
Thank you.
Okay, last one. Library card. Hey, Linda. Whereas, a library card provides citizens of all ages with access to reading materials in all formats, print, audio, and ebooks. And whereas a library card provides citizens with 24/7 access to online services such as genealogy, learning a foreign language, and auto repair information. And whereas a library card provides citizens with access to one of the highest internet speeds in our community. And whereas library programs and classes range broadly from baby story time to learning how to use a computer. And whereas libraries play an important role in the education of citizens of all ages. And whereas librarians continue to transform and expand their services in the ways that meet the needs of the community. And whereas a library card is free for all citizens of Stillwater and Payne County and is the most important card you can have. Now, therefore, I, Gina J. Noble, Mayor of the City of Stillwater, do hereby proclaim the month of September as Library Card Sign-Up Month and encourage citizens to sign up to get and to use a library card to transform your life through the power of information. So true. And I will let you say something about this, Linda. Thank you.
I just want to thank the City Council and the city for your support of the Stillwater Public Library, and also to let you know that our Friends of the Library sale kicks off this Thursday. The member preview sale is from 5 to 8 p.m. It's $10 at the door, but if you bought your membership in April, then you don't have to buy it again this fall. And then it's open to the general public Friday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday, 10 to 5, and Sunday is the $1 bag book sale. You give us $1, we give you a bag, you fill it up, and you card out as many books as you want, and that is from 1:30 to 4:30. So please stop by the library this month to get a card, but be sure and stop by the library Thursday through Sunday to attend the library sale. Thank you all again.
Thank you.
Okay.
They don't give me one.
They shouldn't. I said I got mine out.
Thank you.
So
got ours out.
We got our cards
Got our library
out so we
cards
could
out.
show.
And I'll be there with my
It's
bag.
going to go down the row in
Yeah.
a minute. All right.
You didn't get yours. We assume you have
I
one.
think they might take mine away because of the fines. But
It's your
it's
kids.
in there somewhere.
It's your kids' fault.
Yeah, kids.
We're going to ignore that last comment because I heard fines, and we're going to go to the consent docket. Counselors, does anyone wish to remove an item or items or to have a discussion, or is there a motion and second to approve?
Motion to approve the consent docket.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. And the consent docket is approved with a vote of 5-0. That takes us to general orders. Mr. McNichol, item A.
Item A is 2017 Pavement Management System recommendations, and that report will be presented by Charlotte Lovin.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, councilors, and staff. Thank you for having me today. I'm here to present a little bit more information about the report that you've already seen, and answer any questions that you might have. So, this is the map that you saw in your report. It's like the middle portion of the city of Stillwater, so it's hard to see, so I kind of broke it up in the next slide. And we have the north side of town on the left, and the kind of the south side of town shown at the bottom right. And we have thin surface overlay, mill and overlay, and reconstruction. Some locations around town. But let me talk a little bit about what that means. The pavement management program has been going on since 2007, and we have had projects on an annual basis in significant quantity since 2014. So that would be 2014, 15, 16, and now 17 as the recommendations before you. And we would like, I'd be willing to answer any questions, but the thin surface overlay is part of preventative maintenance, and that is trying to keep our high quality streets at that high quality. And then we have the mill and overlay, which is part of the rehabilitation strategies, and that's kind of the moderate quality streets across the city, trying to improve them, bump them up just a little bit around town. And then our reconstruction projects, those are the most expensive. You get the smallest bang for your buck because they take a long time and a lot of money to reconstruct it all the way from the base to that surface, whether it be asphalt or concrete. So there's fewer lane miles around town represented for that particular strategy. But today, for fiscal year 17, we present to you 27 lane miles around town for these particular strategies. We have 17 miles are lane miles. You have 2 lane miles or 4 lane miles per, depending on the road, whether you have a 2-lane road or 4-lane road. 17 lane miles of the preventative maintenance, 6 miles of rehabilitation, 3 miles of reconstruction, and 1 mile of the deferred maintenance. And then we also do crack sealing, design, testing, and some inventory, because we're now in the 3rd 5-year cycle for doing inventory. We'll come before council for that later on. What we're asking for is your recommendation to move forward with these strategies for this fiscal year. And the budget we're looking at is $3.7 million from the general fund and $1.4 million from the transportation sales fund, the half-cent sales tax. So it is recommended from the Transportation and Stormwater Services Department that the City Council, approve the proposed fiscal year 17 pavement management program and direct staff to begin implementation. And at this time, I'd like to take questions.
Councilors.
I don't necessarily have a question, but I want to thank you. Since becoming on City Council, I knew there was a method to the madness. I knew it. One of the things you get as a City Councilor a lot are questions and emails about our roads and when is my road going to be fixed in front of wherever I work or wherever I live. And there is a plan, and so when we get a report like this, it's easy to articulate. And then I guess I never even thought, too, that there's different types of, construction that happens. It's just the surfacing or, so thank you for that detailed report. And when we're thinking about spending that much money, it's also nice to have the breakdown of where that money is going to go and what it's going to accomplish. And it does, we can see it. Since 2014, there's been a significant change in our roadways in Stillwater, so thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
I especially like the color coding on the map, and it's such a nice graphic. It shows the work is all over the city. It's not just concentrated in one place, so everybody gets a piece of this pot.
You gonna start?
No, yours is easy. Yeah, I will, because mine's easy. I'm wondering the thought behind Richmond on Perkins, Richmond to the Turnpike. That road doesn't seem like any preventative needs to be done, but maybe I'm not an engineer, so
yeah.
I just kind of want to hear the logic behind that.
That is thin surface overlay, which is, we do target those high quality roads because we want to maintain them at a high quality. And so we do crack sealing, and the thin surface maintenance is kind of like a water seal, trying to prevent that from degrading faster, because the biggest enemy of our streets, especially asphalt, is the water. And we are developing cracks along that section, and we would like to keep it at that high quality. So yes, it is true. It's one of our highest quality street segments. And we do also, to attract those large vendors that do the thin surface overlay, we do want to have significant lane mile stretches around town to be able to bring them into town, because usually they stay in Tulsa, Oklahoma City, some of the larger communities. So we need to have a fairly substantial package to bring them into town, and that does meet the qualifications for that strategy.
Okay. So a related question, I mean, if there are 2 sections of roadway that are sort of in the same category, they both need just preventative maintenance, what are the factors that kind of go into which one gets the overlay or which one gets the mill and overlay if they're both needing rehabilitation?
Right. Well, we have, and this is what I'll present to you in about a month, is we have a pavement condition index, and we actually assess the condition of those roads all over town. So we get kind of a grade from 0 to 100 for each of the roads. And then we, and I don't have the breakdown in front of me right now, but say 84 to 100 might be the thin surface overlay, and 76 to 84 would be the mill and overlay. So that would be the next strategy down. So it depends on the specific location around town, what it's tested to be, and then we also go out and verify that that condition is the same, since our data is from 2012. So between 2012 and today, that could have degraded faster or slower than some other places around town. So sometimes we take those recommendations from our computer program, which is the infrastructure management system, and we take a big list, and sometimes we add to the list if we see something that has degraded further than we want it to for mill and overlay, or we just have to tweak it based on what we actually see in the field.
Great. So it's done based on objective measurement, objective data, and not just like the roads that Councilor Zanotti drives on the most.
Right. It is based on objective data, and we'll go into that in more detail. Good. But a lot of testing, and we're up for the 5-year cycle of that testing, so we'll provide a summary of that.
Just out of curiosity, how many lane miles do we have?
That kind of changes based on, annexation, but right now I believe we have 467 lane miles. I believe the first time we came to City Council in 2014, it was 442 lane miles, so we're kind of tweaking upward over time. I like that word, tweak. So.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Yeah.
I like the flexibility of the plan, and I think everybody, when you're asking a question, what if something happens and it's not in our plan? I really like the flexibility this pavement management system gives us. We know what we think we want to do, but just in case.
Right.
So, thank you. I think it's a good deal. And Mr. Dorman, what do we need to do? Is this?
Are you looking to authorize the plan, Mr. City Manager? He's shaking his head. You would need a motion to accept the report and authorize the implementation of the plan.
All right. Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
To authorize the plan, and a second. Please vote. And the pavement management plan is authorized or approved with a vote of 5-0. I got a little bit ahead of myself, Mr. Dorman. Now I'm supposed to ask you, on item B, do we go ahead and...
Mr. McClenny has a report on the auction, and then when you get ready to take action, you'll need to go through this two-step process.
While he makes his way up here, I will tell you that it's probably one of the loudest meetings I've ever heard in this room outside of municipal court.
Really?
When the auction took place.
When the auction
It was pretty interesting. It was spirited.
Did we record it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we recorded it.
Hi, Mr. McClenny.
Hi. Well, several weeks ago, staff came to council with a recommendation that we consider the sale of 301 South Washington. It was originally purchased so that we could have right-of-way for 3rd Street from Washington to Hester. And that is no longer feasible because of changes to development in the area, and council authorized us to proceed with the process. We held a public auction today. Tom Berry, our auctioneer, is here, and we actually appraised the property before we went to auction. The property appraised at $170,000. The high bid at today's auction was $190,000. And if the council decides to proceed with the sale, there is a resolution on the agenda later to declare the property surplus and authorize the sale. And I'm here to answer questions. Our auctioneer is here to answer questions, or we can move on.
Okay. I will point out, I like that it was 170 appraised, and the final number was higher than that. Always nice. Councilors? Comments, questions?
So did you have a few loud people, or did you have a lot of people?
There were roughly 20 bidders here, and I would say the auctioneers were probably the loudest of them.
I would hope so, yeah.
You couldn't miss a bid going by.
Yeah.
Do you feel like we had a good turnout, and that the number that we came up with at the auction is probably the highest we're going to get?
I think we had a good turnout, and there was definitely some spirited bidding as far as people going back and forth. To base it on my only other experience, we sold about 7 or 8 properties a few years ago, and the room was full. Well, the room was about half full just for this one, so it was fairly significant.
Okay, so Mr. Dorman, what do we do here?
Well, the first step would be to go down and approve the resolution that's under item number 8. And that would declare the property to be surplus of the city and authorize the sale of it. And then if you choose to pass that resolution, then by simple motion, you could authorize the confirmation of the sale for is $190,000.
$190,000.
And who was the buyer?
Bradley Gungle.
Bradley Gungle, and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with that individual. I believe the contract is in the packet tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry. What does with us selling the property, does that, I know currently it's a parking lot, does that affect the current use as far as when he takes ownership? It's his, obviously, but is there any uses being affected with him purchasing that, or?
Parking lot.
Okay.
What's it zoned?
I'm assuming it's zoned.
It's in the form-based codes zoning area, and I don't know if Paula's here, but she knew what the zoning was. It was something related to form-based codes, and I can't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we need to move down to the resolution. Item A, resolution number CC 2016-27, a resolution declaring certain real property owned by the city of Stillwater hereinafter described as surplus, authorizing and directing the city manager to offer said tract for sale at public auction. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve CC 2016-27. Please vote. And CC 2016-27 is approved with a vote of 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That moves us to ordinances on first.
Are you going to approve the sale?
Yes, I was going to do that.
I'll make a motion to approve the sale and authorize the mayor to enter the agreement.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second to authorize the sale. Please vote. And the sale is approved with a vote of 5-0. Okay, all right. That moves us to ordinances on first reading. Mr. Dorman.
Ordinance number 3350, an ordinance rezoning a tract of land located at 421 East Thomas Avenue from IL Light Industrial to CG Commercial General District. This is the item that you approved on your last agenda and asked us to bring back as an ordinance.
Motion to advance to second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to advance ordinance number 3350. Please vote. And that is advanced with a vote of 5-0. That takes us to item B on first reading. Mr. Dorman.
Ma'am, I would ask that we strike item ordinance number 3351. I put that item on the agenda in the event that the property sold for in excess of $250,000. But since it didn't get to that amount, there's no need to invoke the charter provision. And so I would ask that that item be stricken from the agenda and we move on to second reading items.
Okay. Moving on second reading, item A, Mr. Dorman.
Ordinance number 3348, an ordinance rezoning a tract of land located at 2306 North Washington Street from CS Community Shopping District and O Office District to CG Commercial General District.
Councilors, discussion.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 3348. Please vote. And that was approved with a vote of 5-0. On second reading, ordinance number 3349, Mr. Dorman.
Ordinance amending the Stillwater City Code by amending Chapter 12 Businesses by repealing in its entirety Article 6, massage therapy, deleting sections 12-234 through 12-300.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance number 3349. Please vote. And that ordinance is adopted with a vote of 5-0. That takes us to reports from officers and boards. Item A, miscellaneous items from City Manager, Mr. Dorman.
Nothing to report, ma'am.
Mr. McNichol.
I have a couple of items, Mayor. Thank you. First, I'd like to read you a description of an award that is given by the Oklahoma Municipal League, and it's short. The Innovations Award provides an opportunity for officials and staff of member cities and towns to receive recognition for their superior and innovative efforts. In addition, this award provides a means for sharing Oklahoma's best public service ideas and demonstrates that those involved with local government are progressive, caring, and committed to their communities. And I don't know if upstairs you can get a shot of this, but at last week's OML conference, Stillwater Electric Utilities was, on behalf of the city of Stillwater, was presented that award. And we've talked about that in here. We've talked about the center several times in here. The grand opening for the center will be Tuesday, September 27th at 4 p.m. Public's invited. There's plenty of parking. And I want you to know that in addition to Dan Blankenship and Lauren Smith and Lee and all the folks out there who have worked to make this thing possible, and really an innovative center, I ran into one of our very long-time employees at Walmart, a fellow named John Hamble, and he wanted to know if I was coming to the open house, wanted to be sure that I made it there. And it really is neat to see employees so excited about city business and a service that will be of great benefit to the citizens. So just want to remind you, on a test run a couple of months ago on a Sunday, they fired this thing up. It provided the entirety of energy needed in the city of Stillwater and put some electricity back in the grid. So very clean burning, natural gas fired plant with room for 2 more motors and 2 more gensets. So they've also planned for the future, and this award is well deserved to all of you.
Well deserved, and my favorite, I just have to say, I have a favorite word. It's the innovative, and I think that's why I'm so excited that the team won this award, because you can't be innovative if you're not already thinking ahead. And if you're not already planning for the future, that's how you become innovative. We got it. So top tier award, and a little dangerous if you look at it.
Yeah. It is. I'm going to move it momentarily.
I think you should. Yeah. I kind of like it.
Okay.
Brings character. Yeah, put it in front of me. I don't get many awards. I really my name on this.
Very good job.
And if I may, Mayor.
Yes, you may.
We have 2 more Food Trucks and Tunes events in Block 34. One on September 30th and one on October 7th, which will be the last of the season, with the exception of some events that are down there in conjunction with Polar Express. But I want to show you, if you come, you can get a rally towel, courtesy of downtown Stillwater, and a much needed, being used currently by
stress
Councilor Nahara, stress ball. So if you don't have a better reason to come down, they've been really nice events. And
let me get in trouble.
You know, Blankenship, if you roll this up. They've been really neat events, well attended, with the exception of one that we had a little weather issue with, but come down and see what's going on.
Well, I think every time we have something downtown, it's even better. I'm going to talk right through his redecorating. So
Sorry.
The events downtown are just fantastic, and every time they seem to improve upon themselves. So I know that's hard work from the staff.
And family events.
And their family events. So we appreciate those who come out and celebrate with us, and we hope, if you haven't, that you take the time to do it, because it's such a good event. And it really highlights and showcases Stillwater. We like that.
We do. And one final item.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you. And Vice Mayor Darlington did a great job in yeoman's work.
It's very relieved to have you back.
While you were gone. So
she did. I watched that. You know, they asked me if I watched. I said no. I did a little bit. Mostly because I just wanted to be here and couldn't be. But Pat can do what I have to script and plan and make all my notes, and she just did it flawlessly. So I'm telling you, this team of people up here, I was already impressed, but after going through what I've been through now, you're more than my colleagues, you're my friends, but I'm just so impressed with how hard you work. Every one of you out here too, just so impressed.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us, there's nothing else? Oh. News, the news. I know you have the news.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm on a transportation theme tonight, so I'm going to give everyone an update on the McElroy project. Is near completion for phase 1 and has opened up for local traffic. It's always great when we can open up a road and everyone can enjoy that. Phase 2, which includes reconstruction on McElroy and Craft Road, is underway, and they anticipate the roadway being open to traffic later this week. So that'll be another thing. And then the final phase is anticipated to start as early as September 26th.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
I'm not sure what kind of track I'm on, but I am talking about the Mummy and Sundance taking place Friday, October 14th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. Preschoolers and above are invited to attend and dress as their favorite Halloween character. Tickets are now available at tickets.stillwater.org or at the Stillwater Community Center. I wish I had my son here.
You can still dress up.
I was going to make him dress up.
Councilor Nahara.
Yes. Today is the start of Bike Blitz Week. We would like as many people as possible to take the Bicycle Pedestrian Trail Survey. This survey will help in determining where the greatest need for trail creation and maintenance is around the city. To take the survey, you can go to stillwater.org and follow the homepage icon with the orange bike. And then I would also like to welcome you back. And then I'd like to just take a moment to thank the Stillwater Police Department. Myself and Councilor Joyce are going through the Stillwater Police Academy, and this weekend, or 2 days ago, I got the opportunity to ride on the Hoot shift, which is a 9:30 to 7:30 a.m. shift. I made it till 6, and then I said I'm falling asleep. So, but I got to ride with Officer Breeze. He's been with the police department about 3 years, and it was an exciting opportunity. It was really eye-opening, kind of what they go through at night on a game day and in Stillwater with the fans and then the other calls. And so I just wanted to say my special thanks to the police department, all shifts, not just that shift, but it was a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to, I think we're celebrating next week with the rest of the class. So thank you. Thanks for putting that all together.
It was very eye-opening. I rode with Sergeant Gripe on the evening shift from like 4 o'clock till 2 in the morning, and going down and closing down the strip was a lot of fun.
From the other side,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. She picked Will up. Yeah.
Just wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying you're young. All right.
All right. Well, I have, I guess, not super news, because we're going to talk about the beginning of construction on the 6th and Perkins intersection. If you don't know, that entire intersection is going to be reconstructed over the next few months or a while. Don't hold me to that date. Anyway, it begins this week. Current plans are to start work on the bridge boxes, and it will not affect the roadway at this point. Beginning next week, there will be various lane closures put in place while the crews relocate sewer lines. I know staff has worked very hard with the contractors to make sure that traffic disruptions will be as minimal as possible, and certainly during game day traffic, we've been told that no closures will take place during those times. But later in the project, you'll be able to find updates and alternate routes on stillwater.org. But this is an ODOT project. It's not a City of Stillwater project. So questions about the project will probably be best directed to ODOT.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn the city council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn the September 19th city council meeting. Please vote. And we are adjourned with the vote of 5-0. And that takes us to the Stillwater Utilities Authority. I call the meeting to order. And trustees, is there anything to remove from the consent docket, or is there a motion to approve the consent docket?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. And the consent docket is approved with a vote of 5-0. That takes us to reports from officers and boards. General Counsel?
Nothing to report, ma'am.
City Manager?
No items, Mayor.
General Manager, sorry. Okay, trustees? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn the Stillwater Utilities Authority September 19th meeting. Please vote. And that has been adjourned with a vote of 5-0. That moves us to the Stillwater Economic Development Authority meeting. I will call that meeting to order and ask the trustees to make a recommendation on the consent docket.
Motion to approve the consent docket?
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Please vote. And the consent docket was approved with a vote of 5-0. That takes us to general orders. Item A, Mr. McNichol.
Thank you. We have a report on fiscal year 2017 annual contract for services between the City of Stillwater and the Stillwater Chamber of Commerce. And that report will be presented by President of the Chamber, Gary Clark, and Ted Allison. Oh, okay.
Good evening, everyone, and I also want to say welcome back, Mayor Noble.
Thank you.
I certainly I appreciate this opportunity to have this return engagement. We have been trying to compile information that we feel is relevant and informative, and hopefully you will agree that it gives you a feeling of value for our relationship that we have had, not only in the past fiscal year, but give you some insight about where we want to go in the coming year. I think it is important that we note a couple of things just to get started. I'm going to try to work with technology here, if I can. Hope that's the one. Nope. Oh, thank you. Awesome, thank you. You may recognize Jane. She was also an intern with the city while she was interning with the chamber. We just hired her first, and she's been a great find, as have everybody on chamber staff. So let's first start with talking a little bit about our relationship financially. You can see that currently we're at a mix of public and private funds. The city contributing $250,000 over the last fiscal year, which was an increase from the previous year. That represents a 38% portion of our total budget, which is for economic development of $662,000. So it's a blend of public and private funds. The Chamber does several things to come up with its 62% portion. And if you calculate return on the city's portion, it comes to 165% ROI. Now the next slide will give you just a glimpse of, and I'm sorry the fonts are so small. I apologize if you can't make that out, but this gives you an insight as to what other communities are doing in funding their economic development efforts. Many of these competing communities are funded, as you know, through dedicated economic development sales tax funds, all public money. Well, in this community, we are, of course, supported through a blend of public funds and private funds, and we believe that that's the best model to operate within for this great community.
Ted?
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but since I can't see the numbers, can you give me a couple of examples of what other comparable things look like?
And I won't go to the ones that are kind of the outliers of extreme numbers, but I think those that are probably more comparable on, and this is calculated on a per capita basis. So Edmond, for example, they're at $6.84. This is the column far to the right. $6.84 per capita. Our figure is $5.10. Shawnee, $9.69. Moore, $6.85. And Broken Arrow, $6.28. And then you have some extreme scenarios of Ponca City. They're at $76 per capita for economic development spending. Many of these communities that, of course, have had adopted dedicated sales tax for economic development have done so in reaction to a crisis moment. And they've lost a major employer. Of course, Ponca City has, and my hometown of Bartlesville as well. So I don't know that we really compare to those. We have not, very thankfully, had to deal with crisis moments like that. And in those cases, they take some pretty dramatic measures to try to backfill where they're losing very large numbers. So I didn't want to present these numbers to give you a feeling that we're under the line. It's more about just to show you, I think, that we are very comfortable in where we're positioned. The Chamber does believe in this public-private partnership. The Chamber contributes to the economic development funding. And I think you do know, we've talked about it in the past, that our funding is separated from the funds that are on the operational side of the Chamber. Any other comments, questions going forward there? Let's look at a scorecard here real quick about the state of the economy. We conduct an annual survey among our businesses, and those responding give us a pretty good glimpse of what they're thinking in terms of jobs going forward. 39% of those responding plan to increase their hiring. 55% plan to retain current employees, and only 6% anticipate a reduction in employment. And I think we'll find those numbers to be pretty true even in the best of times. So this gives me great comfort in where we're at in terms of total employment. There is, of course, some transitional things going about when you lose major industries, primarily in the energy sector. That's already a given. You know all about that. But I think the takeaway here is that we're weathering that storm very nicely. And then we also know from our BRE activities and getting to know employers that they have, on average, more than 80 positions currently that they're trying to fill. I'm talking about quality positions. Those would be nurses, and in some cases doctors, engineers, and so forth. So the unemployment rate doesn't really tell you the whole story. And you look at an unemployment rate, 4.4%. All things considered, I think we can take great comfort with that. Of course, it's been increasing, and we hope that we've seen the worst. But the state of Oklahoma currently at 5.3, and the United States figure of 5.1. So we have, as a trend, stayed under the state and national figures. very excited on the announcement of the ranch project. You know, Joe Haney, you all know very well, put a lot of work in, and others did with that company to bring this to fruition. And it's currently under construction, as you know. But it was like a 5-year process to get it there. And we were part of that celebration. We assisted Joe on occasion with calculating economic impact numbers and as he prepared for his funding package to be presented. And so all totaled, 140 new jobs being created with that project once it's completed, $110 million of new capital investment, and a $5 million annual payroll that will be ongoing. Total economic impact of that project of $9.6 million. OSU growth is always a big factor in this town, and we're very thankful for that. Currently, there are 21 projects under construction on campus, totaling $215 million. And then there's an additional set of projects that have already been announced, totaling $150 million. And you can see there in this slide that the Spears Building, well underway, probably about another 18 months to go before completion. It will be world-class, as will the McKnight Center that will be giving us a whole new dimension in cultural activities for this community. So the construction projects on campus, they are measurably a big impact in our community. We recognize that construction jobs aren't permanent, but they do count. 2,500 direct construction jobs in all of the projects totaled with the OSU projects, and that's direct. And then there's the indirect consideration that's calculated of 1,600 jobs, and the total economic impact of what we know at this point would be $600 million. Very impressive. And of course, you know that OSU enrollment has been increasing nicely over the last 5 years of nearly 2,000 at 9%. We hope to see continued growth. So how are we doing in new businesses and expansions? According to a report that we received from the city, there were 102 new permits issued in commercial and construction activity, totaling valuation and new capital investments of $105.3 million and 37 new businesses that either expanded or came to Stillwater new. And this is just to kind of show you where these businesses are located around town. No surprise, a lot of new activity out on Perkins, but also it's showing that it's kind of dispersed around town in the core of the town, as well as some new events out on the west side around Country Club and 6th Street, 6th Avenue. Now, I think that one of the major events during this last fiscal year in economic development is the Chamber and the Stillwater Industrial Foundation joining forces. The Industrial Foundation brought to the Chamber 3 large industrial parcels, as well as capital that is being reserved for projects, some of which will be funds that we can use in developing these sites, which I'll talk about more in just a moment. But why should we care about this new Economic Development Committee? I can tell you that imagine every month we've got this chamber board meeting and a long list of agenda items just like you have in a typical council meeting. So we've created a body that encompasses about 25 professionals that does the deep dive. And that's what they're there for. They meet once a month. They talk about critical issues impacting economic development. And I can tell you that the roster of people that participate on that committee includes professional developers, civil engineers, attorney, marketing specialists, 2 real estate specialists, an appraiser, construction people, bankers, and manufacturing managers, and hospital administrators. It's really a roundtable think tank, if you will, to help us position Stillwater to go forward and get a bigger slice of the global economic pie. And that's why they're there. They meet to improve our ability to compete. I do have several that are here this evening representing the Chamber's Economic Development Committee and the Industrial Foundation. Kenny Josie serves as the current chair of that committee, and I can tell you that it's quite a lively conversation. It sometimes travels off the agenda, but for good reason. But this group is overseeing not only the assets that have been turned over to our care from the Industrial Foundation, that being those sites, which I'll pull up here. You can see this in this graphic. There was 3 large industrial parcels turned over to the Chamber care, and one of which is located right behind Armstrong Industries there, and the other 2, the parcel C you see there is fronts Perkins, and then that parcel is divided by rail, which I believe is an amenity that we can use, and parcel B is one that we are looking at very closely for future development of a business park. So this committee is all about trying to position us so we can play at a higher level. Looking at this land, we feel that there's great opportunity there, and currently Howard Offlegger and a subcommittee that he leads is doing the deep dive on detail of how to move the ball and get us to a point where we'll be able to offer what we call shovel-ready sites out there soon. Because if you don't have places to put businesses when they come and look, then there's no reason in trying to attract businesses. We have to accommodate their needs. We also need to accommodate those that are here and doing well and need to expand. They've outgrown their space. They may be landlocked where they are currently. And so all of that taken into consideration, and I think you're going to see a lot of activity in trying to take these parcels forward in the coming months. And then we have the subject of creating an incentive program. There's been a lot of effort there. Our board chairman, Gary Clark, led the charge to pull together a consortium of 8 different groups, including the Chamber, that are contributing towards this incentive fund. Now, a lot of our competitors that I showed you that list a minute ago, they all have their incentive funds. Most of those, well, in fact, I don't know of any that do it the way we do it. Ours is a consortium of public and private contributions. Currently, we have put meat on the bone. We've got an operational guidelines that are in final form, going to final approval with the Chamber Board, hopefully this week. And so we feel like we're set to do business with that. And of course, we look forward to working with the city in the form of a partnership there. Of course, your version would be considered entirely by you, but we're trying to lay some groundwork so that it is a partnership model. This is just to demonstrate advertising and publications that we engage in throughout the course of a year. The one here on the upper left is our annual folio that is a community profile designed to answer a lot of the site selection questions that come about. Of course, it has to continually be updated. And then the next piece there to the right is one that we designed to help us promote at some special events we've been sponsoring under unmanned aircraft, which, as you know, is a strength for this community and offers great hope of growth. So as we look at developing a new business park, I think that there will be a day where you're going to see some small manufacturing out there, very high tech, in the field of unmanned aircraft. And then we have this one in the middle at the top. That's our ad in the quarterly publication the state uses. The State of Success publication is the primary marketing piece that the Commerce uses in attracting new businesses to Oklahoma. So of course we're running a full-page ad there in a very prominent location. We run a Commerce magazine that serves as not only our directory, but it's a recap of exciting things going on in the community and highlights some of our major success stories. And then we did a brochure for marketing the Total Energy building, which 309,000 square feet. There aren't many businesses that can use that size of a facility, but we did in fact have 2 visits last year that looked closely at that property, and unfortunately it didn't materialize, but the process is working. Of course, we always do an update of our map. The Get It guide there is our marketing piece to encourage people to shop locally. Then the ad, bottom center, it was one that we ran to support the city's half-cent sales tax proposal. And then this is the new jacket there on our economic development proposals that go out. The last piece there I wanted to mention was a story that was run in the State of Success magazine that the state of Oklahoma conducts, and it was a focus on the success story of OSCO, and really made Stillwater shine. So business retention and expansion activity. We conducted 59 site visits, even though we did have some staff turnover throughout the course of the fiscal year. In those visits, we had 6 major employers that shared with us that they collectively plan to create 150 new jobs. Now, these are not minimum wage jobs. These are what we consider to be typically head of household career opportunities. So we're excited about that. Of course, projections with businesses that can ebb and flow, and many times they are just that, a projection. But we think that you will see much of that materialize in the coming months. And then this, at the bottom left, is a project that has come about through our visit with some of our major employers. And they were telling us they need help in lifting up the livability of Stillwater. Often they go out, they're trying to attract key talent from major cities around the country, and so they look at us and they're thinking, well, we're kind of out there. We're not necessarily as large as Seattle, which is if it's an aerospace recruit, and so sometimes there's a concern. How do we put our best foot forward? Well, we're working on that through OSU Communications Department and several others from the city. The Meridian Tech and hospital. We have a little committee there. Chambers love committees, but we have a little group that's focusing on the solution for that. We hope to be bringing forward about a 90-second promotional video on just Stillwater livability before the next 60 days is out. And then just working together to try to lift up Stillwater with brochures and a dedicated website page and so forth. Also, lastly on this item, working with a current employer, looking at one of those industrial sites I showed you earlier for the possibility of a new facility so they can expand their business. Business recruitment. All of our deal flow typically comes through one of 3 sources. I can tell you that the majority come through the State Department of Commerce, and that's just by design. When site selection people are running a search, they go through that central agency in a state and let them do the sorting and compiling of data from across the state and allow communities to pitch. And so that's just the way that program works. But we also, on occasion, get projects through the Tulsa Partnership and Oklahoma City Partnership where we participate with both. And I can tell you that Both of those partnerships, regional partnerships, bring great value to our program. It's called leveraging. It's taking a little bit of money that we have available and getting a lot more benefit or bang for the buck. And so over the last fiscal year, we had 55 requests for proposals, typically called RFPs. 18 Stillwater met criteria either entirely or partially on 18 where we submitted proposals, and we did have 3 prospect visits during that last fiscal year, 2 of which were on the 300,000 square foot total energy building. You've heard us talk in the past about the importance of having our sites and facilities on a database. Well, we have done that, and we are, now that we have a new staff member, I've replaced Travis with a very bright young man, and so we're going to be monitoring this Xceligent database very carefully to make sure it's always current with properties available here in Stillwater. Workforce development, I'm telling you, this is the deal breaker, and this is where communities either succeed or fail. And we're going to succeed. Coordinating the completion of the labor shed analysis was vitally important. Now that we have a credible independent source, and I want to thank you for providing that to us late last year, we're using it every chance we get. And it does bring answers to the critical questions that many of these RFPs are looking for. Then we also offer an expanded free job postings on our website. And a somewhat new initiative is we've employed college interns for some time. We're promoting that now and trying to use that as an initiative to retain more of our new graduates and talented young people. Small businesses and entrepreneurial support is huge, and this is where a community like Stillwater is going to continue to thrive. You know this. We've got great success stories here. You know, Steve Irby at Stillwater Designs and just Eskimo Joe's. I can go on and on. There are great companies here that have been here for some time. They started here. Many rolled out from technology that had been created with the university, and that's the way a thriving university community should work. And so we work very diligently in trying to make sure people have the information they need. We work through 11 different agencies to provide resources and guidance of how can people take an idea and get it to market. Startup guide on our website. And then we also offer several programs to assist small businesses, the Main Street mom and pop shops, and companies that are kind of young, but they don't have the critical mass to go out and generate their own training programs. So we have a long list of programs there. I think there were like 15 different events that we've staged over the last fiscal year, and 5 training sessions, all directed towards supporting small business and entrepreneurial new starts. I do want to take just a minute to tell you about Jingle Bells, and it is coming quickly. But we're excited. This year is going to be different. We're expanding that program because it's time that we help our small businesses combat the problem of online sales, and that's a fact of life. It's happening everywhere. We're not going to be able to stop it, but I think that we can give small retail businesses tools to help them try to retain some of that shopping dollar that is important to them and this community. And so we lowered the price of participation. We are taking a substantial loss on that program, and we're doing it with vigor because we feel it's that important. We are working with the city and city staff in preparing and visit Stillwater and preparing for the Polar Express. We think that's a great shot in the arm. We're going to take full advantage of having those people come in and make sure that when they're here, maybe they're spending some money and feel good about their visit. We also had the Economic Summit last fall. Great speakers there and over 100 executives attending. So going forward, I think my screen just went blank. Here we go. And you see there's a scope of services now outlined in the proposed service agreement. But someone needs to serve as that initial point of contact. But it certainly doesn't mean that we're all alone. I can tell you that on any given day, and I think Norman would echo this, that we're talking to somebody on city staff. Norman and I talk sometimes multiple times each week on projects and challenges and things that we need to headache together. And that's the way it should work. And so when we say the chamber would serve as the primary point of contact, it doesn't mean that we're the end point, but we would serve as the disseminator. If it's a retail consideration, of course we're going to do everything we can to help, but then work with the city staff so that critical information is provided in a timely manner. And we do in fact have a few retail opportunities in play right now. One party has taken a strong interest in the Hastings building. I received a third call from this gentleman just today. And of course, we're always going to be producing promotional materials. That's what we do, and we think we do a good job of that. We evolve with what we think the market wants to see. We provide accurate and timely information, and this is where the rubber meets the road. When we get a request for proposal, we need to get it back out and within their deadline time. Often that's just like 3 or 4 days, and we need to make sure that we've answered their question with accuracy and not create a lot of fluff. They don't want to wade through a lot of narrative to get the answer they're looking for. So put a lot of emphasis on that. And we're going to be conducting at least 100 business retention expansion visitations over the next year. We already have a good start on that. Now that we have this new staff member to help me, we're going to be out there hitting the bricks more often. Our intent, of course, is to help those companies address their issues, in many cases help them overcome challenges and find resources that could help them grow and hire more people. We're going to participate in cooperative marketing programs just as we have in the past, and this is where you get the bang for the buck. Just as I said, our ad in the State of Success magazine is a good example of that. But I also am traveling with the state on a call trip coming soon where we would be meeting directly with site selection consultants and corporate executives. And the state arranges that, and I look forward to that opportunity. I've done that several times over the past years. But also I'll be working an industrial trade show in aerospace coming up in early November. Continue to provide resource support for small business and new startups. As I said, economic gardening is going to be, I think, it will continue to sustain the backbone of this economy. We're going to have more success stories. We've got all the ingredients here. The Chamber is what I consider to be kind of a collaborative facilitator of pulling parties together that provide resources. And we get excited when we hear about some of these great opportunities, some of which are in our incubator out at Meridian as we speak. I hope you love ice cream. There's a really great product coming forward there. And as I said, Jingle Bells going to be entirely different. We lowered the price so we could get more businesses in. We want more tickets out there. We want people participating. We want the excitement level up. I think that we're going to see a whole new shape of this year. And it's all about trying to help small businesses and retain the shopping dollars here. Now, as I said before, I think it's very important that we make this a normality. Coming back to you and giving you reports that are relevant. I'll try to be more brief in the future. but I can tell you that a quarterly report pattern to me makes sense, so you have a better feel of what are we doing, what's going on, and so having a long-winded speech at this point at the end of a fiscal year may not be quite so lengthy. But the city manager and I look forward to working together to create a new dashboard of reporting metrics that we feel will give you the answers you'll be looking for. But we're also going to do a few other things in addition to our scope of services. We understand the city has an interest in developing a community economic development plan. We're very excited about that. Let's tie all the different activities together that of the groups that participate in one way or another in the economic development model. Let's tie it together. Let's make sure everybody understands what each other is doing, how can we support each other, assign areas of responsibility, improve accountability reporting, and so I'm excited about that. And actually, I've had a little background in that activity. But also, I think it's important that we work together in creating that new vision for Stillwater. What do we want this great city to look like 10 years out, 15 years out? And then plot a course to get there and achieve that. You know, the Fly Stillwater, tremendous event. We're not going to let up. We're going to be promoting that everywhere we go. We're going to get the business community to be tapping into that. And I think once they do and they see that not only it's so accessible, but in many cases it's even cheaper than going through the other airports. So we think we've got a great story to tell. We're going to finish up on this video project I mentioned and provide a brochure and a dedicated website to help our employers attract talent. We're going to continue the planning process on the new business park. We've got to have shovel-ready sites for those businesses looking at us, or they're just not going to be able to come here. And we're going to continue to look at ways that we can help talent stay here. I can tell you that college-level internships is a key. If you can connect that young person that is just about to graduate with a local business and give them some on-the-job experience to go with the coursework they've been studying, then we've got that much stronger chance of keeping them in the community once they graduate. And I can tell you that it's worked many times. I've got some staff members that can attest to that. And then we also are going to dust off a proposal that was looked at about a year ago on workforce development coordinator position. We feel that is vitally important. Not only attracting quality jobs, critical, but we've got to help employers fill those jobs when they get here and create that total economic development model. So it's a new day in Stillwater, obviously, and we want to thank the city for their tremendous leadership and investment. We recognize it's been a long slog to get there, but payday finally came. And here you see President Hargis coming off that first flight in, and a little collage there of leaders recognizing the moment. And it was a great day. And I had the pleasure of going with several of you on that first flight out. And but that's not the end. That's just the beginning. So here's Stillwater. We have a lot to be proud of, a lot to be excited about. We're still growing. The Spears Building is just an example. And I think it's symbolic of what great asset we have in this community. And that university is just going to continue to thrive and grow. But the community is going to continue to thrive and grow around it. And we want to be a big part of seeing that happen. We're still hiring. I told you, we've got a lot of employers that are saying, hey, it's really for them. It's not a recession. They're hiring good people. It's a matter of matching up skills with the right jobs. Still pioneering. You know, there's a lot of products that roll out here in this great community, and we want to be promoting that. We want to help those companies when they do innovate and want to manufacture. We want them to do it here. And then finally, we're still climbing. We've got tremendous horizons, and the Chamber is excited to be a part of that. I can tell you personally, I'm excited about my role. I feel very honored to have this opportunity, and rest assured I'm dedicated every day to make sure that your investment and all those other partners' funds are invested wisely, and we're looking for results. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Councilors. Trustees.
Well, Ted, I know that you hit the ground running, and you have added pretty much almost a brand new staff. They're sitting out here and kind of coordinating
all those
that.
bright faces.
Exactly, exactly. You have a great board behind you. If you were going to give a report to us at the end of this quarter or at the first quarter, however, what is the one thing that you are going to bound into this room to tell us that the Chamber accomplished in a quarter? What is the one thing that you are just dying that you and your staff and the board can come to us and say, we did this in this quarter?
Well, you know, the quarter's not over yet, but we do have some things in play. I will tell you, we've been working with the university on a retail study. This is one that just comes to mind, and we got the first solid draft, and I shared it with Norman. I'm sure he hadn't even had a chance to really look at it, but it's the deep dive of telling us where are we served well and where is the gap. And I think that will help us in our strategic thinking. Where do we need to try to attract businesses and fill those gaps? But also, where are we strong and we're pulling in outside dollars into the community? And just kind of looking through that study, I get pretty excited. We're in pretty good shape, retail-wise. I look at construction around town, and it tells me that the town is changing by the minute. Jobs, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to paint a blue sky picture. I'm hoping for a better day. But the important thing is this chamber is going to do everything it can to position us to play at a higher level when that day comes. And so that's what we're about. As I mentioned earlier, Howard Offlegger, with experience in development, and he's been here a long time, you know that, is leading a group to do that deep dive about what's it going to take one of our properties out there on North Perkins and make that a business park with offering shovel-ready sites. Now, this is what I think our conversation is going to be a lot about. You know, total of numbers and all that, I just don't have that yet. I think you take times like this and you use it to improve your game, and we are. We're very mindful that a lot of people are trusting us and counting on us. Quality jobs is not just a number to us. That's changing people's lives. And we want to see more of that happen.
Trustees.
Ted, I can tell you've done a lot of thinking and work since your last presentation, and appreciate the slides, very nicely done, very nice, kind of classy. I don't think they're going to put you in charge of editing the 90-second video.
No. I know I went way over my time. I'm sure that there's squirming going on back here behind me. But I'm sorry. I'll apologize. I went over the clock, but I felt it was important to...
Just don't be in charge of the video.
We said 90 seconds, and I think that's an absolute.
Yeah.
So.
I was really impressed with the economic development. It was an economic development organization metrics study. The thing I really remember, it was 177 pages, chock full of very, very fascinating information, really expanding my ideas of what types of things to expect and ask for in economic development from the city and the chamber and all of our entities. So I hope that you'll memorize that.
I have downloaded the copy, and our copier was burning through a ream of paper No, I have not read entirely, but it originates out of the International Economic Development Council, which is the premier group in the fields. But I will also tell you that there are other entities that have offered assistance in this process. So I look forward to creating one that is meaningful to us, that goes to what is it we, this community, you want to see, what is it we want to measure, and so we can better track how are we progressing, are we going forward, or are we just spinning our wheels? We want to know that too.
Specific things measured.
Absolutely.
It's difficult to stand up and just say we paid for lovely words.
Yeah. Well, I would tell you that a lot of the routine is important. Of course, there's a list of things that I mentioned that we're going to do in addition to. But that list of scope of services, I hope you don't consider that to be just, that matter of routine, because we got to get that right. That list of activity is really the core of it. But there's a lot of other things you do throughout the course of any year to improve your game.
Absolutely.
You go ahead.
No. Okay.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious, and I also appreciate your presentation. How many staff do you feel like are devoted specifically to economic development?
2.
Okay.
Myself and a new hired assistant, very bright young man, and
Okay.
he will learn quickly.
And what percentage of your time and his time do you think spent on economic development versus other chamber stuff?
My assistant is entirely economic development, and we are going through a transition. So this is not a fuzzy answer. I'm just want to kind of help you understand that we did go through a transition. I'm very fortunate, very blessed that we found a talented individual to come in and serve as our operations manager and our senior VP. And by the day, it gets more and more load of just chamber operations off of me. She's learned very quickly. She has a MBA from a very great university, and but we also have other talent that are growing and budding. Our finance director is outstanding, and when I first came on the job in January, she and I both know that it was a mess, but largely because there was a change in managerial style and who actually was doing the books. And once she was allowed to take over then and own it, be responsible for it, the quality in just our finances have improved dramatically. Operations, we use scorecards. We use a lot of metrics reporting internally. Everybody on our staff has daily assignments, and they have their own reporting mechanisms. And there's just no hanging out and visiting around the water cooler. It's a busy place. We love it that way. To get more to your question, when we're headed towards 85% of my activity would be pure economic development. But if I may also say this, a lot of what we do on the chamber side of the house, and I think I touched on much of this in my presentation, is also economic development. Things that we do to help small businesses, if they can succeed, when you add it all up in the aggregate, it really is a measurable number. You're helping small businesses go forward, overcome challenges, and that isn't always on the economic development side of the house. It's things we do through, well, and you attend many of these things with us, that give people you know, some training, better understanding about certain challenges and legislation that may be coming that's going to be an issue for small business, and it just goes on and on and on. So I don't look at it as a firewall between what I do and what others do in the building. It really is teamwork, but I can tell you that what we've identified in our scope of services, that scope is 85% of my life.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and I'll say this, obviously, because I also serve on a chamber board, and so I think the chamber as a whole does a great job on chamber activities. I think with you stepping in, I do feel like it's done a great job. I feel like there's a lot of good things going on.
Thank you.
Unfortunately for me, in this position as a trustee of our economic development, I kind of have to set that aside, and I'm just looking solely at economic development.
Right.
And so I'm going to ask you an honest question, and I'd love an honest answer, but...
You will get an honest answer.
Okay. We're going to, before us is a contract for $250,000. So my question is, would the city be better served to not give you that contract and just hire in-house economic development person? I mean, if you're only spending 85% of your time, but we're putting $250,000 to the chamber, and I understand it's spent on other things as well, but let me finish. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to, and I'm not saying I want that, but I just want to know that, and I understand you're new as well, but that this is the best option for the city of Stillwater. I need that reassurance, I think.
That's an excellent question. And so when I say 85%, I think many of you know when you go through an accounting audit that you get into cost apportioning. Just because I say 85%, it doesn't mean 15% is on the other side of the building. That other 15% is about monitoring our finances. It's about making sure that the front desk is covered appropriately. It's making sure that staff has access to the training programs they need, or that I need to attend certain functions just to be accessible for small businesses. I can't go in my office and just completely close my door and work on pure just projects. That's not real world. But I'm trying to get to your answer. I think that you're going to have that with whoever, and in whatever capacity, whether they be direct employed by the city or whether it be an independent public-private partnership outside the chamber. I have seen all of those models through the years, and I can tell you I firmly believe that a Chamber of Commerce model that is structured around a public-private partnership is the most efficient way to accomplish it. We have just the other day, Jillian, our operations director, is giving us more structure on reporting. As I said, scorecards and dashboard and lining out scheduling and time management. That's an expertise she brought that's helping all of us. And so I hate to look at it as any kind of a firewall, because a portion of our finance director's time is spent on accounting, on economic development in your funds and our funds, and our marketing person. We have on staff a tremendously talented young lady that had done all those materials I showed you. And so we cost apportion that. So it's a team. But the good news is, if you were to do it independently with this starting up fresh, you'd have to hire people to do each of those roles. And I don't think you would get there for $250,000 a year. We have a program that exceeds $600,000, and building, keeping the lights on. When you add it all up, we believe it's a great value. We believe that it's the right way to go about it for this community, in the chamber providing its proportionate share of support for economic development, which is support from members like you and and many of you. And so I think the taxpayer can take comfort in knowing that it's not all tax money, that it's a blend, which gives you that return on investment that we spoke about earlier, 162% return on taxpayer money. We really believe that that should give the taxpayers comfort.
Did you show us the math on the 162%?
Yes, ma'am. It really is just a simple calculation of what we contribute. If I may go back to that pie chart.
It's okay, you don't have to. Vice Mayor, yeah, it looks like you have a question.
Councilor Joyce?
If you were to look at our $622,000 total economic development budget, now that's not chamber budget. It has its own budget and its own financial statement. But if you look at the $250,000 as a part of that and do the calculation, it comes out to 165% return, or match, if you will, on the city's investment.
You're saying the city's getting 165% return?
I am.
Okay. Councilor Joyce.
Well, I only had really one question, and Miguel sort of already answered it or asked it.
Should have went first.
Sorry, Councilor Nahara. But that question, is basically this: why the chamber is the best place for the city to invest this money, right? I mean, the city has a certain amount of money to put towards developing more employers, that sort of thing. And I appreciate your answer, especially in the sense of bringing together folks in the community, folks that you've got here sitting with you today that have also this interest in it. You've got a broader team sort of already assembled that can help with this. And I think that's a good thing. I guess in lieu of asking that again or having you talk more about that, I guess I'd just make the statement that that the council has concerns about what we're getting back, right? This from all the questions. And moving forward with the relationship in the future, that reporting and calculations of return on investment, I think more clearly demonstrated on what the city is getting, not just in a percentage form, but what is being created in Stillwater by the Chamber of Commerce, right? Those examples and those numbers are going to be the thing that we want to see the most. And so my non-question is just that encouragement as we move forward to provide us with as much detail as you can about what that's going to look like going forward. I think the metrics that we talked about, those are going to be great things that we need to put in place so you guys have some guidance on what we need to see.
What we would like to do, we generate a lot of reporting internally through the Economic Development Committee, the Executive Committee, the Board. And so we would like to not only design a dashboard scenario that addresses your interests, but it's something that is also meaningful for internal use. So, I want to tell you, it's important that we are accountable, that we are addressing your questions and concerns, but we also allocate the majority of the time for the doing of our plan. And that's not a complaint, but any organization should be mindful that, at the end of the day, we got to get out there and do it. And I think that we're well structured now that we're getting back to full staff to be able to do that and show stronger numbers.
Good.
A little help from the economy would also be appreciated.
I'd like to talk about the contract, and I would like to model actually some measurable, time-based ideas. So in Section 4 under reports, and Mr. Dorman made some copies of these suggestions. Ted, you want to read this? the bold is my suggestion. About halfway through reports.
There you go. Yep.
Selected criteria shall be submitted to the Chamber Board of Directors and SEDA trustees. This is in reference to the metrics for high-performing EDOs. Shall be submitted to the Chamber Board of Directors and SEDA trustees for review and approval no later than November 1st, 2016. Chamber shall prepare and submit to SEDA no later than December 31st a preliminary performance appraisal utilizing these evaluation metrics, and no later than August 31st, et cetera, for the final report. And then under compensation, the final line, disbursement of funds due January 1st, 2017 shall be contingent upon Chamber submission and City Council acceptance of an acceptable preliminary performance appraisal as set forth in Section 4 of this agreement.
I like those changes. I think they give us a clearer understanding of what we are about to understand.
Well, you know, as we all know, time flies by.
Yes, it does.
And all of a sudden, it'll be August, and we'll be just crabby again. So if we can just set up your success by having some time frame when we can expect this to be done, and a chance for us to evaluate that. You know, I don't think that we expect that by November 1st you have the entire metrics program digested and planned out for Stillwater, but a good direction toward that.
I share that goal.
Okay.
I believe our leadership shares that goal. And Norman and I, as I said, we talk frequently, and I don't think there's any question that he and I will be getting on that task very quickly, or whoever it may be assigned to.
Well,
I think that would be me.
Yeah.
Norman, I bet you have a lot of other things to do too.
No, but we don't want that to linger either.
Okay. Well, that would be my.
We're hiring someone to do this job. We don't want Norman doing
Yeah, we don't
the job.
need. We don't want to pay twice for it. Yeah.
No, we don't.
So those would be my suggestions to the trustees for amendments to Section 4 and Section 3. And I would.
Do we need to vote on those?
Whenever you're ready to take up the agreement itself, you could, in the form of the motion, add either one or both of these if you choose to do so. I can help you with the motion.
So I just have a question about the changes here. What would concern me, I guess, if I was on the chamber side, although I don't want to speak for you, the second disbursement being contingent upon an acceptable preliminary performance appraisal is pretty vague. And entering into this contract with a uncertainty about whether that second half is going, to happen until sort of right along that time, I think would be fairly difficult. It's, I think even from our side, going to be difficult for us to determine what's acceptable, right? If we look at that in November sometime and some of us think it's okay and some of us don't, or we'd like to see more, it's a somewhat vague.
It's a little vague.
And I'm just concerned when we get to that point, are we going to be able to make that decision? And that's a difficult thing to put in the middle of the contract, right, for us to know if it's going to continue or not. So I don't know if it's possible to put some more parameters or maybe just make it contingent on those criteria having been selected and that program having been set up. I think then it'll be a lot harder to go, okay, have they done enough since they've selected the criteria to now be,
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just contingent on the criteria being selected and that plan being put in place, and maybe not on whether we think that plan has been executed well enough in the month since. Does that make
It
sense?
keeps it objective. I mean, you're right, it would be hard for us to quantify, if you will, at that point. But whereas wording like that says, yeah, this was completed and this is what was met.
I kind of like having numbers that help guide us, certain dates, certain percentages, if that's what it may be, but something that allows us to measure. We have to have something to measure.
Well, it doesn't become us versus them. I think it's keeping it objective. The board then working in partnership with us. It's not a what do we feel and what do they feel thing. It's a more quantifiable thing to look at.
I'm certainly open to any change in language or suggestions. I did just want to communicate my serious consideration of this amount of money and my ability to stand up in front of citizens and say this has been well spent. And this is why I can say it's well spent. So.
And we respect that.
And I completely agree with it as well. So I just want to make sure we end up with a contract that we can enforce. If we, if we get to the point where we don't know what the criteria are. I would propose just changing your language in B, that second proposed amendment, to say contingent upon completion of the criteria selection by November 1st.
Can we also look at that number 3 area and maybe just instead of having the word acceptable, disbursement of funds due January 1st, 2017 shall be contingent upon chamber submission and city council acceptance of a preliminary performance appraisal. It takes acceptable.
Well, again, acceptance is then what constitutes our acceptance of it. Right? I mean, do they just have to send it in?
Preliminary. They would do a.
I would just like to see that they've done, this part that says above there, the selected criteria will be submitted by the Chamber Board of Directors and to the SEDA trustees for review and approval, and give a date there and say we're going to have picked out our criteria, know the things that we're going to be working towards in this plan. We've got it laid out. Here it is, and that sort of preliminary step towards this more traceable, plan. Would be a good metric for us to use to say, okay, the chamber is, they've made this first step towards where we want it to be. That gives us a good something to stand on to say, okay, the next payment's due. And then at the end of the year, we have much more ability to then trace how did they do against those metrics when we look at the contract for renewal.
How would that be? Disbursement of funds due January 1st, 2017 shall be contingent upon chamber submission of preliminary performance appraisal as set forth in Section 4 of this agreement.
Like that.
Yeah, is that what we're calling it, this performance appraisal? Or just the selected criteria?
The criteria and the appraisal would be separate items as I understand it.
Yeah. So the appraisal's supposed to, in the original language, the appraisal happens at the end of the year.
Right, this would be a midterm assessment, and as I understood the request when it was submitted, so the acceptance of the criteria would be due November 1st, and then the preliminary appraisal would be due by December 31st. And with the languages modified, I think you could simply say submission of the preliminary appraisal is the item that triggers the disbursement of the second set of funds.
Okay, so just submission of it and not.
You don't have to accept it. It would just simply be submission of it.
That seems more clear.
A chance to see how the metrics work.
Yeah.
Now, again, I think as I understood the Vice Mayor, that there's no expectation that everything's going to fall into place by the end of the year, but certainly try to kind of working through them and seeing if these are what we are really looking for. Because it saves a big surprise in July.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so but that change gives us a little bit more clarity on how this is going to happen in the middle of the contract.
Okay. Great.
Sorry. You guys
Okay, so
have comments on that or thoughts
we
about whether
vote
those
on
changes
this?
work?
Can we, I don't have any more questions for Ted, but can we have a little discussion?
Yes.
So he doesn't have to keep standing up there. I mean, if you want, you can. I think, and this is nothing against you, because you were just kind of thrown into it, but, you know, this is my third chamber contract, and, you know, over the last 3 years, I think Stillwater's had good progress, but it's hard for me to say that all that progress, or the progress that I feel like we're supposed to get out of this, was due to this. And so, you know, I think I'm glad we're doing this, but I think over the next 6 months or a year, whatever, we really, as a council, need to think long and hard about how this is done and if this is the right way. Again, I have nothing against the chamber programs. I'm involved in a lot of them, but I don't think I see the part of economic development of that, but in my mind, what we are paying here, and when I started council, what I was told was, this is industrial growth. So this is total energy that should be filled, and that's not all on you. We have a tough economy, but it's not full. Or the industrial growth that we should be seeing, but we're not seeing. And again, you know, we've talked about how the economy is slow, and so if the economy is slow, do we need to be putting this much money into this? And so that's, you know, I don't know, you know, that's just my thought process in this. And since you came and presented to us a month ago, I've just been thinking a lot about that, you know, I think in my mind, the chamber is two separate things. Their programs and the things they do in the community, I think that's great. And that's, their members are paying those fees, and they're doing those programs with that. But in this, we have to see the return on this, just like you said, when we go to those meetings or when we get calls from people in our community saying, why isn't this full, or what's going on here, we have to be able to say, well, we're putting this money forward and we're doing these visits and we're trying and we're trying and we're trying. And I know you showed some of that tonight, and I do extremely appreciate that. I think you guys are trying, but I just, you know, I don't know. It's just, if we're in such a tough time, is it, I don't know. Is it worth to do this right at this second, or is there better use of this for this present time?
$250,000 is a lot of money.
Well, I mean, you know, even if mayor, what do you call mayor? I don't know. You know, even any, yeah, I agree that, but I mean, even 100,000 at this point, is it, if it's at a place, and I don't know. I guess, you know. Is this something you think we can grow on, or is it the economy at a place that it's going to be tough to get anyone to build a big industrial park, or get anyone to come and fill those buildings we have empty? Is this, I mean, would this money be better used put in an incentive fund, and we just say, here's our incentive fund? I mean, you know?
Good conversation.
Thank you.
And let me take the last one there first. An incentive fund, quite honestly, is one of those last considerations. I just can't remember times when the local incentive may have been added to a deal, but it was really the deal maker. If you can't answer the very basics of a site selection opportunity, and largely you don't have even a point of beginning if you don't have a site or a building. In many cases, especially in this market, they're asking for existing buildings. You know, you may recall the last time I was here, we monitor all of these RFPs and what is it they're asking for, and look for trends. And clearly, this is a very common when you've had a dark period in the region where you've got a lot of vacant buildings and the world knows it. And so there's kind of a focus on you know, taking advantage of buildings that there may not have any debt on them. They may be somewhat older, amortized out, whatever, but that's competition for Stillwater. And so buildings is a consideration, and we are on that. We want to make sure we have buildings now, and that we have buildings when those buildings are gone. And that's why I mentioned the shell building program. You know, economic development is something I've done for 26 years. I've been certified since '95. I can tell you that It is really not something that we can throttle up and throttle back. Consistency is very important. I think a lot of what we've been through is turnover. No excuse. I hope, of course I do, that turnover is behind us. I am trying to take what I bring to the table and put it to the very best practice that I know how for the benefit of Stillwater moving forward and positioning to get more deal flow and more successes in the future. That's a long process. But let's just say if it were to be a simple analysis of, well, how about we just come up with $1 million incentive fund and kind of drop back on some of this other stuff, it would be a step back. Because incentive funds, they're important to have it, but too often it's not what makes the deal. Local skilled labor is now always in the top 5 and probably among the top 2 or 3 in most occasions. And so we've got to use that labor study and demonstrate that we have the people. And then we have the training programs, which we do, to convert people from one field to another because of an opportunity. We've got to continually address the livability factor of this great city. It is great. We all live here and love it. I'm loving it. But we're competing with the world. And so we can't let up on that. We've got to continue to look for ways that we can make it a little better and then promote that. And so it's a pie of so many different slices of things that will make us more successful in the future. There isn't a magic bullet. I wish there was.
Well, and I think over the last few years we've seen a shift in the chamber. It was struggling. It was brought back. There's been a huge transition over the last year with a new CEO. The shift of the job description for the chamber CEO happened with appointing you as the CEO. I think what the council is just trying to say, we're ready to see promote what's already doing well. The programs are doing well. Your marketing pieces are doing well. We want to see taking this to the next level. What does that look like in this next few months? What are you going to give us that's going to just make us excited? And that's what we want to hear from you. That's what we want to see from you. That's what we want the chamber to be. I think you have a great board. You have great leaders behind you. We're just wanting to see that momentum and that excitement and that accountability for the funds that the city is going to give the chamber.
And I think before we wrap up tonight, Mr. Clark, would you like to come up and address the council?
I might just add a word or two if I might. Thank you. I'm Gary Clark, a resident here in Stillwater, and happen to have the honor of being the chair of the chamber at the current time. I would speak, Councilor Nettenhauer, to you about, when times are tough, that's the last time that you want to give up and say, we're not going to invest in this. I think, to be honest with you, if deals were falling in our lap, maybe that's the time that you don't need it as much, but right now times are tough, and no one else is rocking back. Everyone else that I know of, I've talked to Enid, Shawnee, Ponca City, all of them in terms of what they're doing, and all of them are continuing their investments in economic development. And as I personally believe that not only are you getting the $250,000, but you're getting the money that the chamber is bringing to the table, which, again, even leaving out the building is probably close to another $200,000. On top of that, you're getting a board of volunteers, of people who care very much about this community, that if you have an employee of the city, I don't think they have nearly the same resource base to draw from. So I'm absolutely convinced that this is the right thing for the city to do. I believe our Economic Development Committee that's been established this year is going to be a huge help, I think, in making advances in the area of economic development. So at least on my part, and speaking, I have other chairs here and chairs to come, that I really sincerely believe that this is absolutely the best way that the city can invest in economic development for the industrial commercial. We're not completely aside on the retail. We do have an interest in that. We work closely with the city. I think the city's in the best position to handle that side. I think that's great that we're able to do that. But at least for my part, I make no excuses for what we do. We've had a year where we've had turnover. That's certainly true, and that's been unfortunate. But I believe we're fully staffed. I think we have a management style that we won't have the turnover that we've had in the past, and I feel very good about where we are and where we're situated. I wish we could promise results, that we're going to have this many new jobs and everything else. Unfortunately, that's dependent somewhat on other people, just like retail coming into town. But we're going to be doing our dead level best to do it. We'll be responding quickly to RFPs. We're going to be working through business, a lot of the activity there, this business retention and expansion, and we probably didn't speak enough maybe about that tonight, but a lot of the jobs that we're going to have in Stillwater probably for the near term are probably going to come from those expansion type jobs. And so that's, I think, at least something that will be there. So I appreciate the opportunity to address you. I know you've been here a long time already, so thank you very much, and I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any. But
Trustees?
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to encourage all the trustees to read that Making It Count, because it expands your idea of how to measure economic development. It's not just numbers of buildings and jobs. It's types, it's quality. There are a variety of ways to think about this, and just relying on the old-fashioned numbers of numbers is just old. So go through that. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Okay. All right. Are we
ready for a motion?
So please guide us.
Well, if you want to approve tonight, then the motion would be, pardon me, approve the FY 2017 Chamber Economic Development Agreement as presented, with Amendment A as proposed by the Vice Mayor and Amendment B as proposed by the Vice Mayor, with the following deletions to the last sentence, which would be removal of the words "and City Council acceptance" and then the word "acceptable." So with the deletion of those words, I think it gets to the place where I believe there was a consensus earlier.
Yes, that matches the.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to do what?
So moved.
Approve the resolution. Approve the resolution.
Okay, so there's
Second.
a motion and a second on the recommendations of what Mr. Dorman just said. Please vote. And with that recommendation, it passes with a vote of 5-0 to pass. And that takes us to,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Stillwater Economic Development Authority.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn Stillwater Economic Development Authority. Please vote. And we are adjourned.